ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig or check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. I cannot do this thing alone. Joining me, as always, Brian with an eye Aldridge. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Of course, if you want to find me on X, you can find me at Boise Computer. Of course, at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and whatever other. I mean, who knows what's around next year.
Yes.
Seems like they kind of come and go, and I see it in the news. Oh, so I don't have an account there anymore, or they've changed it or something. But all right.
So
do you have? Yeah, you have something you want to start on? We got.
Yeah, I want to start with
things.
GameStop, the interesting company. So there was a report back. I think this report is from this week. Yes, just I think either today or tomorrow, or today or yesterday. Here's the headline: GameStop quarter two sales down 45% as more
Perfect.
stores due to close in the future.
Yeah.
Not really surprising. Net sales amounted to $798 million versus $1.16 billion in the second quarter of last year. Its net income was on the rise compared to last year, however, at $14.8 million for the same period last year. GameStop has recorded a loss of $2.8 million. So here's the thing, and you know, this is where they show the drops across the board. Almost 25% for hardware and accessories, almost 50% for software, so that's going to be virtual copies of games and things of that nature, and about 18% for collectibles.
Which is what they were hoping would save their business, I feel like.
Yeah, well, they bought
ago.
ThinkGeek for a gazillion dollars, and that was the whole plan with that. It is interesting that everything else is down so much more than collectibles. When you look at, though, hardware and accessories down 25%, can you say that you're surprised with these generation consoles not being they're old? And I know I don't know if we've got some Sony news in here. Sony made an announcement. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. But of course hardware's down. I mean, if you wanted an Xbox or a PlayStation this current generation, you probably already have one, right?
Yeah, and if you're going to be getting a replacement controller, usually with Prime and overnight shipping, same-day shipping it for people that live in, fairly populated areas,
Sure.
They aren't going to bother to go down and find the GameStop, drive across town. It's actually less work nowadays, it feels like, to just sit there, order it, and be like, all right, it'll be here tonight or it'll be here tomorrow.
Exactly.
I'll wait. And I think that's really killed their business. Before, when everything took 5 days to ship, okay, I don't want to wait 5 days. I'm going to drive the store across town tomorrow, and I'm going to go pick it up. Well, that changed. And now instead of driving to the store tomorrow to go pick it up, you can have it delivered tomorrow, and people just don't want to bother getting in their car and going somewhere. And I think that's the new normal for not just this company, but I think it's a lot of different companies. They've got to compete with super incredibly fast shipping now that practically costs nothing compared to what it used to.
Yeah. Now, looking back at the numbers, almost 48% decrease in software. That's the killer, because obviously as more and more consoles don't have disk drives, as more and more individuals are downloading games or redeeming codes to download games, GameStop needed to stay relevant by, still selling those games, but just in a different format. And obviously they have been unsuccessful in doing that. A nearly 50% drop quarter over quarter, year over year, based in Q2. That's brutal.
Yeah. And this is a tough business. What do you do to fix it? I mean, this is something we've talked about now over the years. This isn't a new issue for them. How do they turn something around when this is an industry problem? This is not a GameStop problem. It's become a GameStop problem, but all the other competition has pretty much gone out of business, or the backbone of their company is not this particular piece. They may sell these, Walmart, Best Buy, things like that, but it's not their backbone. This is one of the only places left where video games is the backbone of the company, and they've actually kept their doors open, which is pretty incredible.
It is pretty incredible. And Brian, you said, what do you do about this? Well, this is what you do. Apparently, we learned 2 weeks ago, this was coming to fruition. This is GameStop Retro. And this is their attempt, and this is something we talked about a long time ago. And one of the things that I do believe in, it's obviously very hard to do, and it's not practical for the size of the company that GameStop is, but hear me through on this. Barcades are, I don't know if they're popping up in Boise, but they're popping up in a lot of places.
I've seen them. Well, PAX, there's a barcade there, right?
A couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, but one of the places that we visited every time in Seattle, they had one upstairs. You don't really see them around here, but Boise is about the population where you start seeing them. Seattle's the population where you see them. The larger cities, you have enough people that'll do it. Over in Asia, this is huge.
It's funny you say even the larger cities. There are now 3 of them in Wilmington. Of course, they're not expansive. They're not huge. They're not these massive facilities. But there are 3 of these facilities that have all opened within the last, one just opened within the last couple of months. Within the last 16 months or so, maybe 24, all of these have opened. And I've said for the longest time that the one thing that GameStop has the ability to do is turn into a hangout spot. And that you get people in the door. This is why board game stores host so many events. Playthroughs of games.
They make it a community of people coming down multiple times per week to come hang out.
Yeah,
and
Magic
they'll
Night,
buy things too
Pokemon
here and
Night,
there.
whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're getting people in the stores, you're getting people you're getting the foot traffic, and they're in the store, and they're more likely to buy something, of course, than if they were sitting at home. It's been very popular for board game stores for quite some time. It's probably not practical for GameStop, I'm sure, based on the leases that they have. Getting an ALE license in many areas is not practical, but that's really the solution here. Now, this is what they're showing in terms of what GameStop Retro is going to look like. And here is the catalog of games that is going to be in the GameStop Retro. It goes all the way from the NES to the Super Nintendo, a couple of Game Boys, N64, the DS, a couple Wii generations, the GameCube. Pains me to see that the Xbox 360 and PS3 are considered retro at this point. That hurts my soul. The original Xbox, Sega Dreamcast, Genesis, and Saturn, the Vita. I can't believe that's considered retro either. But that's apparently what they're going to be doing. There was a interesting article over at USA Today. They're not only going to be selling these consoles from the DS all the way up to the Xbox 360 and NES, but apparently they're in some areas, they're also going to be having some sort of setup, like I call it like a den area where some of this stuff could be done. And that, to me, is kind of what they need to do, to try and stay relevant.
Well, and see, just last week, we have one barcade, as you would call it, an arcade in a bar, and it closed down last week. It shut down in Boise. It was our one we had. But the difference is theirs were purely retro arcade machines.
Sure.
And it was a bar attached to it, and it wasn't so much of a hangout place. It was just a small little place where there was a bunch of arcade machines just lining the walls, nowhere really to sit. I mean, we'd have work parties and they would, end up there and people could play video games or whatever. But that is not the ideal setup. That was a bar that tried to entice you to come down and have some, play some games along with it, right? The other one has to be a place where you come down to play games and there happens to be a bar there too. That's the feel. It needs to not be a bar. It needs to be a place where, sure, you can come down and hang out, and we'll also, keep you entertained while you're here and, keep you fed or whatever it is they're going to supply with this. But that's going to be a big stretch. As you said, their leases, the buildings that they currently have are all very similar across the country. They're long and thin buildings.
It's traditional retail commercial space. Absolutely. And
it's a certain width that they go for. They kind of have gotten a lot that are roughly the same size. Maybe they have some bigger ones around in the country, but I haven't seen them. How do you turn that into a hangout spot where you feel you have the room to do stuff? I mean, that'd be very difficult. You can, but you're only going to have a limited size and capacity for people, which is going to limit your income if you become popular, because you'll only be able to fit so many people in those locations. And how do you get a big profit when you're capped on how popular you can become? You'd have to then transition to other buildings, start getting rid of those old locations and finding places. The real estate market in a lot of places is trashed. Go buy some buildings.
One of the and I didn't even think about this, the size aspect of it. I was talking about the alcohol side of it, where in many of these places you might not even be eligible for getting a license to even
certain states,
serve food or sell anything. So that's going to be an issue. Now I went to they've got a thing on their website. We'll put a link to it in our show notes, where you can go and search for your retro store. And I did mine here, and it shows that all three of the GameStops that are close to me are all apparently going to be selling these retro games. Now the other thing
I don't have any 100 miles of myself, so there's probably not doing it in Idaho.
Interesting. Or they might be rolling it out east to west or something like that. Who knows? The real question is going to be pricing, right? Can they compete? The retro game market is very, very inflated right now. And I mean, great example of it. I mean, here's a copy, and this is on GameStop's website. Here's Mario Kart Double Dash for the GameCube. It's $65 freaking dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, so these are not inexpensive titles. I don't think this is gonna work. The retro market is it's very big online for good reason, on various websites and Facebook Marketplace, and what's the one like online video service where you can buy and sell stuff. I don't remember the name of it. But there's all these different places where the retro market is exploding, and I'm not sure that people are ever going to attribute GameStop to that, personally.
Yeah, and I just don't know how they're going to kind of grasp this. I think that the problem is, in a place where this is going to be hot, individual markets, a person could come in and set up a competing business that would do all of this. There's nothing that they
probably already exist. I mean, retro video game stores are already
That's
very
what I'm saying.
popular.
An individual can come into the hot markets, not just everywhere, and set them up and start making a profit, and then figure out where they need to roll them out after that. These guys are in a rush to try to figure out what we need, because they need to start making money. I mean, look at the numbers we posted at the beginning. Everything's down. Like, how are they're trying to figure out how to keep these buildings, how to keep these doors open. Maybe it'll work. I mean, it'd be interesting. Maybe you could go visit it once they're up and just see what it looks like. See if it's somewhere that makes you feel like actually staying and hanging out, because that's the key. Is do you feel like staying and hanging out, maybe playing a few games and getting a drink or something, or you're like, okay, whatever, I saw it, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think one of the big issues is going to be that facilitating that hangout is probably not going to happen in most of the GameStops. And if it's just a place to sell retro games, I don't think that's going to work.
Well, my cousin used to manage for years GameStop. Like, he managed one of these for a long, long time. And he used to do it, he got to know a lot of people, and his became a hangout, but it was because he was a really big nerd about, video games and, especially console games, and people come and hang out and talk, and he just built up a bunch of people. But that's an individual. That's not GameStop doing that. And they can't replicate that. How are you going to get people? It's going to be tough for them to get people that are going to draw people in, managers, when that's not been the focus. Like, they're going to have to totally change the type of people they're hiring to more of a bar and less of a GameStop. Because have you met the people that, no offense, but when you go into a GameStop most of the times, is that the, cool people you want to go hang out with usually? Not usually. They're not, and they don't draw me in to want to be like, hey, let's go, show me what you got. It's more of, all right, I feel like I'm bothering you,
Show me the merchandise.
Yeah, it's just not. I think they're going to have to come at it. They're just such a totally different business. This is going to be difficult. I just don't know how they're going to do it personally.
The reality is GameStop will eventually close its doors. It makes sense for it to close its doors with stores like Walmart and Target and Best Buy. Walmart and Target are major retail chains that have small not even small. They've got good size electronic sections, small video game departments. If you want stuff same day, you can go there. Best Buy is all focused on appliances, computers, televisions, and that stuff. They exist in every major city. You can also get your video game stuff there. The scope and the avenue in which GameStop can exist is incredibly narrow. It's so incredibly narrow right now. And as we look at the next generation of consoles, where they might not have any with a physical disc drive, then their business model is essentially gone at that point because there's no margin on selling those digital copies. They don't make anything on that. It's practically a pass-through business at that point.
Yeah, and there's not like a repair market in consoles that I've really seen. I mean, there's like a cell phone repair, but have you ever seen the companies want to handle the repairs?
It's too small. It's too small and it's too niche.
Yeah. It's just there's not a mark. I don't know. It's just
and they don't break.
Be difficult.
I mean, the reason there's so many cell phone repair places is because every single person on planet Earth practically is walking around with a phone and it's falling and hitting concrete.
And they could try it with mobile devices, as far as like Wii U's and not Wii U's, they don't have, but whatever it is that has a screen on it that you could carry around.
Switch,
have it be the Switch
Steam
and
Deck.
Whatever it is. Repair all those things. Treat them like cell phones. Figure out a reason that's going to bring some people in your doors and you can charge them money. Because that's where they're losing, right? Well, figure that out. And if it's mobile console repair, and you think that that's going to be a niche market that's starting to open up, because if your console breaks, where do you take it? I mean, like a mobile device.
You don't.
Yeah. Well, they could work out deals where they have the screens and they have all the parts, replaceable parts. Those buildings are perfectly sized for that. Like, figure out that market. I just feel like they need to figure out where the need is and solve the need. I feel like they're trying to figure out what can we do to stay open rather than where's the next need. Like GameStop had a need back when it was started. Just like record stores and VHS, rentals, and they all had needs, but those are phasing out. What are you going to do next to still have a need that you're fulfilling? Because is this retro game shop, is that a need that needs to be fulfilled? I don't think so. I mean, they're trying to create the need, but you're going to have a hard time convincing people that they need that.
Correct.
So figure out where the need is and chase it. Like, is that the next market? Figure out what the next thing is going to be. And this doesn't seem like that to me, because this is more of something you'd open up in your local town, a bar, a pub.
If this was 2017 or 2018, I think it would be a different conversation, a different story. It's September of 2024. These stores likely won't be rolled out in their entirety until probably midway through next year or the early part of next year. It's only getting worse. And to kind of piggyback on this, Brian, I don't know if you saw the news this week, but Sony has announced a new console, not the PlayStation 6, but the PlayStation 5 Pro. And if you take a look at because
they had a PS4 Pro, right?
They did.
I think I had the PS4 Pro.
Mm-hmm. I have a PS4 Pro. If you take a look at the picture of the newly redesigned PlayStation 5 Pro, what do you not see, Brian?
Well, I'm not seeing a place to put a disc.
There's no disc drive. That's absolutely the case. So this base unit, I call it the base unit. The PlayStation 5 Pro, the processor is the same. However, there is an increase in the graphics performance. The PlayStation, and these are of course Sony numbers, so take this for what it's worth. The PlayStation 5 Pro apparently has a graphics card with 67% more compute units, and it claims that it's got 28% faster memory on the graphics unit. They say that the result is 45% faster rendering for gameplay, which is sizable if that's true.
Yeah.
The big push here is for ray tracing, which is obviously very popular on PC, RTX on, RTX off kind of thing. And there's
I would say the AI upscale is going to be huge for this.
Yeah, it's called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, and it's using AI to upscale and add graphical details. That is
Which will
really
be interesting
cool.
to see what it does for old games.
Yes.
Is it actually going to enhance them and make things look crisp and clear? I don't know how much and how aggressive it is.
Now,
but
I'm going to ask you to stop scrolling through the article. How much do you think the PlayStation 5 Pro, PlayStation 5 Pro is?
I'm going to try to $500. I'll say $500.
Well, that's the current price of the regular.
Oh, is that the current one? Oh, so I'm not even the starting.
I think that's what the PS5
gone down
is.
A little bit. All right, so $700.
You are spot on. $699.99, Brian. That is
that was a good guess.
It's outstanding
It's
for
like
the cost. So here's the question: $700 freaking dollars for a console?
That's a lot. I mean, the thing is, I think so. The reason I got here, let's look at why we got the PS4 Pro back in the day, 4K display. That's why I got it, so I can on my 4K display TV play Red Dead Redemption 2 in all of its glory. Right? That was my
I bought it because it was the current version that was on the market. It was like the new version.
This is pushing for the 8K because they're going to start seeing 8K televisions, and to be able to do that at 60 frames per second is going to, it takes that hardware to do it, just like it did 4K. Because going from a regular, 1080p screen to a 4K, that's 4 times the amount of space. Imagine going to 8K; it actually multiplies. It's not just a double. It doesn't four to 8 doesn't double. It multiplies. So, more than doubles. And so this is something I think that this is going to be for these people with the newest, best, 80-inch. They give an example here: 8K resolution on an 80-inch screen at 60 frames per second. That's what this market is for. I think it's going to look good. It's going to make things look better. But if you want it to look good on a big screen, you're going to need to go with 8K.
Yes, and obviously those TVs are coming up. But Brian, it starts begging the question, and I know it's not the fairest of comparisons and so on and so forth, but you really do now start getting into, and this was discussed, this is always discussed during these new devices, you are getting very close to PC level pricing.
Which is becoming more and more popular lately. I mean, I think it's been having a big breakthrough. Yeah,
now this is, I did no homework for this at all. I just went to Costco and searched this up, gaming PCs. Here's a CyberPower with an i5 14400F, an RTX 4060, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 2 terabyte SSD for $850. You are very in the ballpark of this. Now, of course, you need a screen and a monitor and all that other stuff that's associated with it, but you're in the ballpark of this.
I mean, that pretty much comes with everything but the screen. It has everything you would need. So short of a screen, and you might want to just use a big TV now when you're doing it. One thing I saw on that PlayStation 5 is they do have, it looks like, I don't know if this picture, they showed a detachable.
So, yes. So look at this thing. So, Brian, you're old man Aldridge over here, right? You're just chomping at the bit to play your games. So, Brian, what you can do is purchase an $80 disk drive that snaps onto the side of it as like this little modular thing. You also have to buy this holder ring thing for another $30 so that the console stands upright. So now you're at $800 for a PlayStation 5 Pro and a disc
with
drive.
a CD-ROM.
Yes, $800.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and here they talk about they kind of go in here too. They're talking about making $200 more expensive than the base PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
And then you'd buy the vertical stand, buy the disc drive, $110. Yeah, then you're at $1,000. You're close to $1,000 at checkout.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah, you're at a PC level, and this is the thing. I think if you're going to be nowadays, most of the games that you're going to want to play are also available on PC. Now, Sony is the worst about them. They do have the most exclusives, I think, but short of those exclusives, they don't always. The exclusives they don't always send off to Xbox, but you know what? I've seen like those exclusives have been making it to PC. So if you are a PC person, you may wait a year for the exclusive to pass. But it seems like there haven't been very many exclusives that have actually stayed exclusive to Sony and haven't gone to PC, because most of them have eventually gone there lately. So I think PC is still a good market. if you're wanting something that's going to play the most variety of games, because almost everything on both consoles comes to PC nowadays. I'm trying to think of any real exemptions of that, but I mean, there might be a few that are purely console, but there's not very many I can think of. I think you're in a place now where you're safe getting a computer.
Now the big thing, of course,
streaming Xbox.
Yeah, the big thing, of course, is going to be Grand Theft Auto. That comes out next year. That is only going to be available at start, unless something dramatic changes, which it won't. Yeah. That is going to start and only be available on console. So many folks like myself will have to upgrade to the latest generation if we want to play that the day that it comes out, or wait. Could be 12, could be 16 months for it to make its way to PC, just like GTA 5. So we will be in the market for these consoles. I just can't. I don't remember it being so crazy when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out. As you mentioned, the big thing was 4K. I don't think anybody's buying an 8K TV.
That was the real bonus. I mean, it didn't really offer you too much more.
And this doesn't offer you really anything either. I mean, yes, you're getting higher graphics performance, better shaders and all that. But the question is it worth $1,000 to get that? And I think the answer is unequivocally no.
And I think it's future-proofing this console. Maybe this is their attempt also to extend the life of the PS5.
Probably.
Because I mean, they don't want to create a PS6 yet. Microsoft, who knows what they're going to do, if they're even going to continue putting out hardware and not just start doing, like that little disc and streaming all their games with the cloud. Because I mean, imagine GTA 6. Imagine if they offered a cloud version that ran on a really lightweight, $40, $50 device or less, and you could stream a super high quality version of Grand Theft Auto 6 with enhanced features because it's all running locally. You're streaming it, right? Imagine if they offered that. I think people would go for that rather than the PS5. I would find that to be cooler if I had better AI or something that they're offering that makes Grand Theft Auto 6 even cooler on PC. I would rather have that, personally. So I don't know. This will be interesting to see what all they offer. Is there going to be games that are only for the PS5 Pro now? Kind of like the XS on Xbox. There are games that will only run certain ways on the X version. I assume there might be games that will either have a enhanced version for the Pro or exclusive to the Pro if they're super advanced.
So it's funny. I was having a couple of my buddies were in town last week. That's why we weren't on the air. And one of them is playing. One of them got the new Elden Ring. I guess there was some new DLC that came out for Elden Ring recently. And I believe he was on a PlayStation 4. I believe Elden Ring is on PlayStation 4. And the DLC was available to him on PlayStation 4. And he said that the wait times after you would die, because the game was so old, or the console was so old, was about 120 to 200 seconds every time you died. To
reload the level.
Wow. Now, and I have not played Elden Ring, but from what I understand, dying is a relatively frequent occurrence. So imagine every time you die, you have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs for the better part of 2+ minutes while that happens. He was pissed that it was even available. Yeah, because he's like, this is ridiculous.
It's still available on the Xbox One, which is probably a very similar experience.
The Xbox One is the same as the PlayStation 4, same generation. So he ended up getting a PlayStation 5 to circumvent that, to get the new console. But I think you're right about maybe trying to keep this alive. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, and it really wasn't. The PlayStation 5 came out in 2020. I thought it was a lot longer than that, but it hasn't even been 4 years.
It's a fairly young console. And, they're already trying to figure out how we're going to get more. The problem is when there's big technology jumps, or for us, looking at the screen sizes, people are getting bigger and bigger and bigger screens. And all of a sudden they're like, well, my 4K doesn't look clear like it used to anymore. Well, when you go from a 60-inch to an 80-inch screen, what do you expect? You're taking the same number of pixels and you're stretching over a bigger space. So, so this is kind of for those people that have those. It is a hardware upgrade.
But the processor's the same, so it's a graphics
the
upgrade, but the
processor. That's
processor's
the
the
kind
same.
of the crazy thing. It's a very niche like solution that they're giving. It's solving screen problems, but it's not, which is probably better than them throwing a faster CPU in it as well, and then being like, well, it runs on this, and then people will start making games only for the one because they can get away with more on it.
Yeah,
and they probably don't want that. They want it to stay spread to where you can play it on a lot of different of their consoles.
So this is a relatively similar cycle to what they did with the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 came out November 5th, 2013. And as you look at when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out, that was November 10th of 2016. So it 3 years, 4 years, close enough in the cycle. So this is pretty on brand. But again, as you noted, the big thing there was 4K, which in 2016, the prices and the availability of 4K televisions was actually starting to be practical for individuals.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case with 8K right now. I've not seen
I mean, it maybe it's right around the corner, but I'm not running around looking for an 8K TV at the moment. I mean, what am I going to stream on other than playing video games? I mean, I'm not watching videos in 8K. It'd only be video games.
Yeah, and anything that you're watching on cable or YouTube TV or Hulu TV, all of that stuff is at best 1080p. Most of it is 1080i, which is just upscaled 720p.
Well, and that's where I think the AI upscaling is going to be their solution, because you are going to have a tough time keeping up with increasing the graphics for these giant TVs. Make it detailed on, if the chip is fast enough, you can make it detailed on almost any size screen. And it looks like that's what they're doing. Yeah. They're $4,000. This is,
there's
the expensive price of the TV. These are expensive TVs right now. Very expensive TVs.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously but here's the thing. If you'll notice, it's all Samsung and LG. So none of the mid-tier guys are even making these things yet. And these TVs are ranging anywhere between $1,200 and $10,000, depending on what you're.
It's like the old original flat screens.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, look at this.
$20,000, 115 inches. Oh my goodness.
It's a TCL too, of all places, for $20,000. That's pretty neat.
$20,000 for a 115-inch TV. That's just insanity.
I would love to see. Does anybody have a review of? I would like to see a picture.
I want to see one in. Yeah, they must. That doesn't look great for.
That doesn't look
for they're that much money.
Oh, that. Yeah, I guess this is that size would be. Yeah, there you go. That's probably about 150. That's a huge dresser. There's 6 drawers on that. Wow.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
It'll be nice that when they figure out how to put a camera behind
that thing is 115 inches. You can absolutely tell it's a full grown ass man sitting under it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
it's a big TV. Right now, $20,000. But you know what? 10 years from now, that'll be common.
Yeah.
5 years from now, probably.
So,
everybody will have one.
So there you go. That's what's going on in the land of Sony and GameStop. What else we got going on, Brian?
All right. Hey, well, let's talk here really quick. Discord has a new feature.
Okay.
And here, according to them, it now keeps deeper tabs on what your contacts have been playing and vice versa. So this is something that they're claiming is more like spyware, and there's going to be directions in here how to disable it if you don't want to be a part of it. But they said Discord started off with just a random chat room. Of course, we started Discord. I remember what did we switch from? I don't remember what it was now, but we switched over from Discord, or not from Discord, but I don't know, TeamSpeak. I think
TeamSpeak or Mumble. Yeah, one or the other.
I don't remember which one went last, but Discord has grown up quite a bit, and we interviewed. They were one of our last interviews, if I remember correctly, at PAX, and talking about all the ways that they were trying to. Well, for one of the years, they were one of the last interviews, and they were talking about how they were trying to figure out how to make money, selling games, doing the subscriptions and everything else. It's been cool to see them grow, but they're trying to become a social media company, and the problem is with social media companies is that means they try to share your information with everybody, and when I started Discord, it was not to be super social. It was just to talk to people that I wanted to talk to, and I wasn't wanting it to publish everything about me on this service, right? And that's not what I view Discord as.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that was, what year was that? Or last year we were there?
This is 2019.
Or was that the
That's
year?
a long time ago, bro. It was 5 years ago, like this past weekend.
Oh man, it seems like it's flown by. So now they have, if you go to the settings and you go to privacy and security, they have activity status.
Okay.
And so you can go and disable that there, is they're wanting it to show more of, for example, one of your contacts has been playing Call of Duty for 13 days in a row, while another contact has been playing World of Warcraft for over 100 hours. It will be advertised in these marathon badges.
I see that. Yeah.
So it's going to start showing you like streaks for playing various games. If you don't want to be a part of this, go disable it. Maybe you're playing games that you don't want just advertised on there, that you're playing them to everybody. Well, you might want to go look at your settings and make sure it's not saying, well, you've been in, I don't know what games nowadays would be controversial, but
here's the thing. I get it. I think the headline of this article is a little deceiving.
I don't see it. I definitely don't see it as spying or spyware.
It's already doing this. I mean, I look at our Discord right now.
To a point, it shows you what's happening right now. Like it shows if someone's playing a game and you have to go disable that. Right.
Sure,
this is showing a history, which is not really that much different. If someone's paying attention to you, they know what you've been playing. It's not like it's releasing secret information.
I can see that Brian is streaming on Twitch. I can see that our friend Donnie is playing Breakpoint Aftermath. No surprise there. Our buddy UGX Vibe is playing Rust. So he's been in Rust for 46 minutes. Our buddy OG Bobby J is playing Path of Exiles. Somebody's playing GTA 5. I just don't. I don't know how this is considered spyware. Who cares?
And it will keep 30 days worth of history from what I've seen. So it'll keep kind of a 30-day record of what you've been playing, stats for those last 30 days. So it's pretty much previous month stats.
But this is what it says. Or maybe you don't want a friend to know that you have beta access to an unreleased game. Well, if it's an unreleased game, it probably doesn't have the Discord hook, so that won't happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're playing a lewd game that you don't want others to know you're playing. That was already an issue.
Yeah,
it's had
you already would have had to disable
game.
that if you didn't want people to know you were playing whatever simulator.
Yeah, what's Leisure Suit Larry?
Leisure Suit Larry, yeah. Leisure Suit Larry 7 or something like that.
Yeah, so like all of this stuff has already been there. Now it's just the I guess the tracking of it. I don't know.
If you have a problem with it, we'll have this article in there. It'll have a link, but just go to your privacy settings and turn it off if you care. I mean, my son's been playing on my Xbox account, so it shows. Oh yeah, he's been playing Ark.
Okay, because you've been playing a lot of Ark. Every time I've looked at Discord, it's like Brian is playing Ark. I'm like, that's all. He should be working.
So it's not me. So that's where I would probably turn it off, because I don't want people thinking I'm playing whatever he's playing. Or if someone, not that anybody knows me from work at Discord, I don't want them thinking I'm playing Ark all day when I'm supposed to be working. It's not me.
Sure, Brian's employees.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. But we'll have a link to that. You can more than welcome to go check it out. I thought that was interesting. I didn't think it was spyware, but it is something different that is going to be giving more information about you. And some people on the internet are very picky about that. And I'm sure they would have noticed already. Do you want to talk a little bit about Dr. Disrespect?
What's going on with the good doctor?
All right. So first of all, I wanted to start by, so remember he was let go from the Midnight Society, which was
his own studio
that he co-founded, right?
Yeah.
Well, now 3 months after that, they are having significant layoffs, which is to be expected. I mean, the only reason that was probably going to have a lot of attention was because of Dr. Disrespect in the first place. And now this has happened, and you expect it to have that same hype and people wanting to jump on it. I think they pretty much killed their own game by letting him go. And I think this is an interesting discussion, because if I look at what he got in trouble for, there's still no proof that's been put out, right? As far as this is all conjecture, where he hasn't even said what really has happened. And I think this is great. I think that I'm surprised that they fired him without, or, made a mutual agreement to separate without any actual proof of wrongdoing. Because he's now claiming that that he did not do anything inappropriate, which he kind of said in the beginning too, but he didn't do anything inappropriate with a minor. He's saying that there was no inappropriate
but it was the
images or
messages.
sexually, but he said there was nothing sexually graphic in any way exchanged. But if that's true, then someone needs to produce whatever these things, because if they don't exist, then why are we discussing it? Right? This is all hypothetical.
Well, no, there's something that does exist. That's not the case. There is.
I mean, where's the log?
There's transcripts somewhere.
But they've never been released. There's been talking about this is most likely what's in there, and he hinted at what was in there.
He admitted it. I mean, he admitted to having an inappropriate set of messages with a minor back in 2017.
But he said they were not sexually explicit, is what he says now. And so, at what point? Because look, you've got people in certain communities that push all kinds of things with minors and saying that it should be okay, and they don't get fired. They don't get kicked off of YouTube. They don't get kicked off of Twitch. They get encouraged for it, and they get put on the front page.
Well,
and you're telling me, I'm not defending what he did. I just would like to know, what did he do? Because I don't know what he did, and I'd rather make my decision based on facts than conjecture, right? That's my concern. He gave a little bit, but now he's claiming that what they're claiming is not what happened. Okay, then
didn't something happen to
proof.
Didn't something similar happen to one of the Rick and Morty guy?
Yeah, and he got proved to be innocent.
Innocent. And
he's still kicked off of his video game studio. He's still kicked off of the show that he started. And everything was dropped.
Yeah, he was found innocent.
So this is the perfect example. We get and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be kicked off, but there's people who promote this that are highlighted on the front of Twitch, and they're put on the front page, and they push for this kind of behavior to be legal. He got kicked out for the thought of it. But there's people on the front page who promote this and say it's what they're all about, and they're on the front page of Twitch. They didn't kicked off of Twitch. That's what's crazy to me. I'm not saying what he did is right or that he should be on Twitch, but I don't know. And there's so much. It's like, if this is not a consistent enactment of the rules, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because there's people that do this all the time.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna play. I'm not gonna play devil's advocate. I mean, the reality is when he was the most popular live streamer, and I saw something on Twitter this week where it showed like live stream stats, and Dr. Disrespect was still even though he's on YouTube now, I think. Isn't that where he is now? YouTube or somewhere? He's on one of those platforms.
He's back on YouTube, I think.
He's still the most popular.
I don't, or he may be moving to Twitter. I think he got demonetized, if I remember correctly, on YouTube or something. I'll have to look.
Wherever he is, he's the most viewed video game streamer. So he's still incredibly popular. But Brian, when you are at that peak, when you are at that level, and he again admitted to inappropriate messages with a minor in 2017 leading up to TwitchCon, that, of course, there are going to be serious ramifications that come from that. And in fact, they did. He was banned from Twitch. He was essentially cast out into society. And for his own admission, rightfully so, for what he said. Now, again, did he act on any of that? We don't. There's no evidence to prove that. But again, he admitted to the enforcement, though. You're right, and that is the issue.
If people are promoting having relationships like this with underage people, and they're pushing that as a right that they should supposedly have, and they're promoting that on the front of Twitch, don't you think that that's even worse? They'll phrase it and be like, "Well, I'm helping them." You're not helping them with a single thing. You're a pervert. That's what it comes down to. And you're trying to justify it with your own set of circular logic.
Sure.
But these guys are perverts. And Dr. Disrespect may be a pervert. But the thing is I don't know if he was just being, if he was just being, talking with someone in an adult manner that he shouldn't have, or if he was truly being inappropriate. Because they're kids, and you shouldn't talk to kids in a certain way, but it doesn't mean that you're a pervert, right?
When you say you admitted to sending inappropriate messages to somebody, I'm going to read into that.
But when I hear the word inappropriate, I think, well, then it's sexually explicit, right?
Yes.
He says that it wasn't.
Well, then what the hell would be inappropriate?
Then what does that mean? That's what I don't get. He's claiming it wasn't. What do you mean by maybe he overstated because he didn't want to act like he was downplaying it when he did his first announcement? I don't know. That's why I want to see the messages and see, because there's so much back and forth and inconsistencies now, and there's zero proof other than him saying that he did something, right? That's the only thing. And then people at Twitch kind of hinting that he did something and saying that, supposedly something happened. This is just crazy. And the fact that he is coming back and he's been streaming. I haven't seen his stream or whatever. There is an X post. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's on right now. So here's a quote from him. And this is a post that someone else put on X, but it has his video in here. And he says, neither I nor the Twitch user exchanged in any graphic messages or images. So, okay.
That's
so what was it? That's what I understand. What was inappropriate about this?
I don't know. He claimed that it was inappropriate, though.
That's what I understand. And maybe now he feels like he misstated because of how they're interpreting what he said.
Yes.
Inappropriate is he shouldn't have been talking with someone who's underage, period, as if they were an adult. That's true, right?
Where their Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017. The answer is yes, he tweeted.
Yes.
Were there real intentions behind those messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much into the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Yeah. But again, what does that mean? Inappropriate what? Edgy joke? Or are you trying to meet up? Or are you trying to meet up with her at TwitchCon or him at TwitchCon? We don't even know if it was a guy or a girl.
Yeah. Hey, you want to meet up and I'll get you a drink at TwitchCon. Like that could, depending on the intention, could definitely, especially if they're underage.
Here's the thing. And I don't have any, never been a doctor. I'm whatever with Dr. Disrespect. I don't like him or dislike him.
I don't watch him. It's over.
But here's the reality. How many times have we seen people in his same position get nailed for the exact? It's unfathomable that this happens as frequently as it does. These guys are constantly they're put in these positions and they're constantly nailed with the same thing.
Yeah,
it's really bizarre.
I don't know what it is that
the fame, I guess.
Them. Yeah, but why? But when you're that famous, you can get girls that are 18 and older.
Yeah, but you can, but there's too many of them. So maybe this is the lure. I don't know. But I know, that's what I'm saying.
Forbidden fruit for them. I don't know what it is, but it's just a weird draw.
But it happens so frequently that there's got to be something to it. 'Cause it's not like this is the one-off thing. This happens way more often than it needs to be.
And I just think for here, if they would release something that doesn't give the identity of the other person, but release the context of what was said, and then let people make their own decision of should he be kicked off of all these services? Did he do something that's truly inappropriate? And if you give them the actual what happened, then I would feel like if I am saying I want nothing to do with them, I'd be saying it for the right reasons and not because I was convinced to by someone like, a person writing an article at PC Gamer or AI or whoever writes these articles.
Sure. I'll tell you what though, Brian. I recently went through a situation where I was terminated from my position for things that were nowhere near similar to this. Just the mere idea of this potentially being something is enough for him to be gone. And that is the society that we live in, for better or for worse.
And that's where, if this was consistent, because my biggest thing is protecting kids. I have kids. Our oldest is 15. I'm all about protecting because that's part of what I do is protect them from everything outside of these.
That's why you don't let them play Roblox.
That's why I don't let him play Roblox. Is one of those primary examples. I don't want the pedos coming to his computer screen. Right, keep him outside. Here. This is a very common thing. They've got to claim. How do you stop this kind of stuff from happening? You're not going to do it. It's just kids are part of the issue is parents. We limit in our house heavily access to the outside. There's a lot of parents that put no limits and they'll hand their kid a cell phone with no restrictions. And, those type of people are messaging people like this because they want attention, right? And if you're in a position like this, that's where you have to have extra character. If you're going to stay in a position like this, you have to have incredible character to stay on top for a long period of time. Because it seems like the ones that don't have good character are always getting picked off by, as you said, things like this.
Yeah.
And it's happening all the time. And I'm sure there's a lot we don't get reports on anymore that are still happening.
Definitely.
And we'll have some extra things on there if you want to read. There's some commentary by like those former Twitch employees, like Cody Connor's response to him returning to stream. So you can get some commentary on that. There's just not enough information. He claims that he says, what kind of lawyers do I need when I am definitely not getting sued? So.
Well, here's also part of the problem is it's hard to tell what's real and what's not because he's in character all the time. So
Dr. Disrespect, yeah.
Yeah, that his whole character his whole setup is a caricature of a person. So it's hard to take anything he says in that case seriously, unfortunately. All right, let's move on. So there was this indie. It wasn't a video game platform. It was a system in which I believe keys were generated for games. Brian, if I remember correctly, it was called Xsolla.
Yeah, what was that game? There's a game I remember that it was a big.
Xera, I think, was on Xsolla.
Xera, Life is Feudal, I think, is another. Life is Feudal. I think the Xsolla owns that game. Remember that game, the MMO, that huge one that was ridiculous.
Yes. Xsolla. So their big thing was in-game payments and the availability for you to use for a lot of again more indie kind of games and studios where you would use them as your payment platform. People would buy the game on your website through Xsolla. Their key generation would happen through Xsolla. Very, very prominent, very, very popular website. The clients: Twitch, Smite, Fortnite, Roblox, Warner Brothers Games, NetEase, Phoenix Labs. I mean, these are some major studios and companies that were working with them. And there is now a report that the CEO apparently transferred over $100 million between 2021 and 2023 from company accounts to his own personal account. That is quite the damning accusation if I've ever seen it.
So, and then this included a suit filed by the former VP of Global Accounting in the last November, where he was fired. It says Aliyev alleged he was fired after discovering that 40 million had been moved from company accounts to this guy's account. And then it was dismissed with prejudice because they say that he paid it back. So he paid back the loan. It was a loan, a $40 million loan. He just pulled out of the account and put in his account, and then he paid it back, which is pretty crazy to let that go. Yeah. So this is one. I mean, this company was founded in Russia originally. When you're dealing with things in other countries, maybe this is more of a common behavior over there. But this company, I think, has moved over to is it America or Europe or something like that. They're not based over there anymore, so I'm sure there's different rules. Maybe you could pull 40 million and put it back over in Russia, but not here.
Well, you talk about how large of amount of money that was. The company made 67 million in 2020. So he's
transferring the whole income.
Now that's of course what their net proceeds were. Or their their net proceeds. So that's obviously a little bit different, but it's very interesting to see them kind of in this controversy.
Well, one thing too, so their chief financial officer, the former chief financial officer, Joe Chang, claimed he was wrongfully terminated after raising concerns about the company's adherence to U.S. accounting law in 2018. So, yeah, I mean this is stuff you're not supposed to do in this type of a company, and so I think they were taking the practices they did other places and implementing them here in the United States, and that doesn't exactly work.
It does not at all.
Way
In
to
some
lose
other
money.
kind of law and crime news, Brian, this is a pretty major one, I believe. The Internet Archive, which archive.org, which happens to be the host of our audio podcast. If you're one of our audio listeners, that file is coming from the Internet Archive. That's where we store it, which is fine because for us, we own the show. We knowingly and willingly upload it to the Internet Archive, and then you're able to listen to it. But there's been a big issue for a long time with the Internet Archive because there is a whole hell of a lot of copyrighted material, whether that be old software and old there's two levels of old. There's old as in there's no longer copyright on this.
Out of copyright, yeah.
It is at that point free public fair use on anything. And then there are things that are just old but are still copywritten, like software and that may have existed in the late 80s or early 90s. And while there's not many copies of that software, the companies are likely out of business, that there is still copyrights on that software, and many of those things are available for people to download, which has been great for, people being able to play with old hardware and spin up old, BBSs and ISPs and things of that nature. But there's apparently a case going on right now that the Internet Archive lost in a decision that could have a huge impact on their future. Late last week, a U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit ruled against the Internet Archive, upholding an earlier ruling that found that one of the Internet Archive's book digitation projects violated copyright law. So they go through the process of digitizing books and making them available. And even though
and things like that,
it's a library system. Yes, it's a library system, but I guess the process in which they are doing the actual digitization is violating copyright law because they're making a copy.
They do treat it like a library.
100%,
they have it where you can
out.
rent out for certain periods of time. They have all those things implemented. So maybe they can just fix how they're doing it and start rolling these out again. And it would only be, of course, they wouldn't have to redo it on the books that are out of copyright. But if it's a book that's in copyright, just start redoing all of those and, putting them back in the system. If that's the case, I mean, there may be more to it than that, that we're not seeing. But what's your opinion? I mean, I think that some of these things, especially with video games, or not video games, but with code, 100-year-old code, that's going to be a little bit different. Do you think they should still keep the same copyright law on software? I mean, do we want to wait 100 years before something can be used publicly, or do you think they're going to make special rules for software and have it to where you don't have to wait 100 years so that things can go into the public use much earlier in software?
But here's the thing, though. Software is very different than the likes of Mickey Mouse or that Happy Birthday song or things that have recently come off of copyright. Intellectual property is still intellectual property, and I don't know that there's when you code or program something that is proprietary, but it can easily be replicated through other means. If you have a piece of software that counts to 5, you can count to 5 in any different programming language, probably 100+ different ways, from something that's 4 lines to something that's hundreds of lines if you wanted it to. The greatest example of this is the IBM bootloader back in the 80s, in which they owned the bootloader. They had the intellectual property over the bootloader, and it wasn't until Compaq came around and found a way to reverse engineer it without ever touching it, without ever looking at the manual or even using one, that the IBM compatible market started.
And that's the dangers with AI. Well, and this is where the training might be, where they may want to short that down because they may want to use that in training and things like that. I can see the courts coming in and modernizing, I'll say, the copyright law for software, because I still think it just doesn't make sense. They don't need the 100-year turnaround, I think, on software. Um, it's a very different market. I think with books and things like that, that may make sense. But I think with software, it's not something that you're going to go and use a piece of software 100 years later. How would that work? You're losing by having such a long copyright on software, you're losing software.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have them 100 years from now. You're not going to have access to the source code to be able to look at it. Right? Does that make sense? You're getting the game or whatever it is you compiled. You can have that, but then you don't have the actual code to it. You don't have what the product actually is. And with a book, that's different. You have the original product. You have the words, right? But software, how are they going to maintain that? I think they're going to have to do something, because if you do the same rules, there will be nothing to turn over 100 years from now. Right? You're losing everything. And they're going to have to come up with a solution for that. I don't know what the solution is going to be in the short term, but I think they're going to have to shorten it down, because you're going to need to have it to where maybe 30 years down the line, copyright or, whatever it is with how they deal software is different. If they figure that out, have it be a shorter period of time, because it can't work the same. You're going to lose it all. And then we're going to be like, well, what do we do now after it's all lost? And, and there's a bunch of promotion pushes for right now for preserving old software. What about those old games? What about all the old code that these companies that are getting shut down that don't open source the product? What happens to all those that code for those old games? They get destroyed and they get lost. They're no longer in the system. And who 100 years from now is going to go and figure, they're gone. There is no coming back from that. So that's my concern. I don't like changing, laws and making things more lenient in that way. But I just think that if we don't do something about it, the whole copyright system will be pointless for computers, other than for words.
Sure.
So it's kind of a rant, but it's true. I mean,
it is true.
What are they going to do 100 from? Books are all of a sudden coming out. Even movies, if they've stored the original version, maybe you can go and then kind of remake or fix it up. But software's not going to be that way. There's already companies losing just games that are 20 or 30 years old. They've lost the source code for them already. Yeah. And they're like, well, we can't really go do anything with this anymore. It was nice, and then it's a worthless. You can't update it to make it work with anything else. You can't remake it. You can't do anything. So we'll see.
On that note, Brian, where can folks find you online?
Yeah, if you want to find me, of course, you can find me at Boise Computer on X, or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and other places. If you want to go check out my blog, you can do that at biteoftech.com. Or if you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, that's the perfect place to go join us on Discord on the upper right-hand side. Whether you want to go talk politics or maybe play some ARC. We got 11 ARC servers currently running with all different maps that are all connected together. So if you want to play a little bit over the holiday, if you want to watch our live show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube. And of course, we have the upload after the fact on Rumble. On the lower right-hand side, we have all the different listening options. So we upload that once the show is done, and we have a lot of different. I've added a couple actually different platforms to it this past week. So maybe some new places you can go and listen to on there. And if you're going to do that, we also have the show notes for that particular episode uploaded by that point, where we have a video and audio player built right into that page, and then links for everything that we discussed through the show. So whether there's source material, videos, anything like that, we'll have a link, and you can go check it out as you listen. Of course, you want to support us, there's a support menu option up top, or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Brian, my friend, greatly appreciated. Thanks as always. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Alrighty, folks, if you want to follow me, should have some exciting news in the next couple days. Follow me over on X at Nicholas M. Craig, or check out my website, nickcraig.com. If you missed any portion of today's wonderful program, you can head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.